Let me ask you a question in this sentence. Sachin plays cricket. Okay. If I ask you a question, what would be the subject in this sentence? Would you able to answer me for this question? Lot many of you would gonna tell me that Sachin is the subject. Why? Because it's a doer, correct? But if same sentence I write like this, cricket is played by Sachin. Okay. Then if I ask you the same question, what would be the subject in this sentence? Then now I'm gonna tell you that cricket is what the subject. Now how this has happened? And by the way, let me tell you, these two sentences are exactly equal, okay, into the meaning and in tense also. These two sentences are exactly equal in meaning and tense. There is no difference in them, but still their subject is different. Now, why we are actually stressing on identifying the subject and verb and object in a sentence? Because these three are actually forming the base of the language. Now, before understanding what subjects are, let us understand what actually the verbs are. Okay. uh, if I tell you the definition of the verb, then verbs are such words which represent action or an activity, and it has three forms. Okay. The words which represent action or an activity, and it has three forms, like what? Play, played, played; drive, drove, driven; sing, sang, sung; eat, ate, eaten. Correct. All these words are representing what? The action or an activity, and they have three forms also. Now let me ask you, what is the logic behind these three forms? Yeah, three forms, sir. जे logic आहे ते काय असू शकतं? What would be the logic behind these three forms? Actually, uh, the language has been introduced for what? To express our thoughts and emotions. ठीक है? Language has been introduced for what? To express our thoughts and emotions. Correct? Now, all these things we are expressing uh, by asking two questions, correct, to the person in front of us. What those two questions are? What happened and when happened, correct? What happened and when happened. Okay. These two questions are the prime importance of us to express our thoughts and emotions to the person in front of us. Okay. So what happened, actually we understand, or the person in front of you understands, by the form of the verb. Correct. What happened, he understands with the form of the verb, and when it has happened, we express with the form of the tense oblique time. Correct. For example, what happened can be expressed like, what happens in this sentence? Sachin plays cricket. Sachin is playing the cricket. Okay. And if the like another verb, I give you an example, like eat, dance, play, or drive, or sleep, or sing. All these are expressing what? The action or an activity that has happened in that particular moment. And when it has happened, how this has been expressed? With the form of the tense. Now tense actually is nothing but what? Time. And time has three aspects: past, present, and what? Future. Correct. Time has three aspects, and that's why to express our thoughts whether this particular thing has happened into the past or in future, we have different form of the verbs. Correct. V1, V2, and V3. Now this is actually the logic behind having the three form of the verbs. Now this is actually the logic behind what? Behind these three form of the verbs, correct? So these are actually the verbs are. Now coming back to identifying the subject, uh, now coming back to these two sentences, why the subject has been changed in this particular sentence? Because and I told you that these two sentences are written exactly having the equal meaning, and they are having the equal tense, and still their subject is different. So we need to understand, you know, there is a concept of there's a concept of you know there's a concept of understanding the voices. Okay, voices. There are two voices, active and passive. Okay, now we don't have to go very deep right now, while understanding active and passive voice and what are they. We just have to differentiate between their constructive form, म्हणजेच how they have been constructed and what is the formula of them to write a sentence on them. We just have to know that, and that is sufficient for us to understand how subject has been changed in these two particular sentences. Now active voices are written in having the construction or the formula of active voices sentence are what? Subject plus verb plus object. Okay, subject plus verb plus object. And what about the passive voice? They are subject plus be form of the verb plus verb का third form. Okay, and then plus by plus object. Okay, just understand the very difference between these two sentences. Active voices having subject plus verb plus object. That's it, very simple structure. Only difference between the passive voices structure are what? Be form the verb plus v3. Be form of the verb plus v3. Okay, this is the exact difference between these two sentences. Now we can easily differentiate the sentences that are active voices and sentences those are written in a passive voice. Now what are actually the be form of the verbs, how they are differentiating, what are actually the be form of the verbs, how they are differentiating, and why this subject has been changed over here. Okay, in these two sentences we will see into the next lecture. Before that, what we have learned today, we have learned about the now what is the need for us. We have learned today what the subject plus verb, sorry, we have seen what? Subject, verb and object. In specifically we learned about the verbs in a sentence. These are actually the words which represents action or an activity, and they have three forms, correct? Now why three forms? Because there are three aspects of the time, past, present, future, and to express them we have the three form the verbs. Okay, now why this is actually known as what? The basics of the language. And why this is important? Because there is no sentence possible without the verb, and there is no verb possible without the subject. I'm talking about the whole English language. Okay, in whole English language. Okay, that's why identifying the subject and verb is absolutely important. Okay, identifying subject and verbs are absolutely important. Now we learned about this subject verb, and rest of the things like in next lecture. This is actually very IMP that we have learned, and we okay, and in next lecture we will study about what are the B form of the verbs, and differentiation between active and passive voices, and on the basis of that, how to identify the subject into the sentence, and we will see about the objects also. Okay, thank you.